Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew Fillion and I am finally at Peak Week. If this is your first time here, what I've been doing in this video series is I've been documenting week by week all of my progress for my upcoming Men's Physique bodybuilding show. What I've been doing is I give a status update here, then I take you inside to show you my weigh-in, and then I'll do a physique update. And then I cap things off with a macro and an exercise breakdown, which I do in my office. I'm here at Peak Week. This is the final one, so I think this might be a little bit of a longer video because I want to explain my whole journey up to here. And I also want to go over what Peak Week really is and all the things I'm doing to get ready for it and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. Once I complete that, I'll take you guys inside and I'm going to show you my final physique. Got 1 week left, so there's not a whole lot of changes that can happen there. But there are some. I'll explain what those are. After that, I'll take you in the office. I'll show you what my macros are, and I'll explain what I'm going to be doing with my macros for this week. Hopefully in my next episode, I have really good news to share with you guys. Even if I don't, I'll still break down how my peak week went and everything that I did. Hopefully it goes according to plan. I started this prep 19 weeks ago. So it's a 20-week prep. I think in retrospect, I probably should have done 24 weeks, but with 20 weeks, I started at around 198 to 200 pounds, in that range. I've cut all the way down to the low 170s. By the end of peak week, I'm really hoping I hit 169, but even if I don't, I'm happy with all the progress I've made. And 1 pound of body fat, even though it might mean a lot to me, it's not going to be something other people notice or even can tell the difference on during show day. So with that, everything has been going great. Around week 10, I started to incorporate fasting back into my training regimen. It's been a long time prior to this since I had done a fast, but I've got a lot of experience in fasting, and through this prep, it has renewed my interest in it. If you've been watching my videos, you can tell it's basically all about fasting now. And that's because fasting has been such an incredible way for me to not only lose body fat, but to also feel really good while doing it. See, when people do really calorie restricted diets, what ends up happening is they're so restricted that they feel terrible all of the time, but they're getting just enough food that they're not ever actually in a fasted state, especially if they're doing, the 6 meals a day thing where they got the chicken and a vegetable, and you do that for months on end. That can be really, really draining on your mental state. As you can see, I'm feeling pretty good. This prep has been difficult. I'm not going to say it's been easy, but I've been pushing myself as hard as I can, and I'm still mentally sharp. I still feel capable. That's really the most important thing. I'm pushing myself hard, but I feel capable. And it's all from fasting. I've got other videos that go into more detail of how fasting works and why all of these things are happening. But what I really just want to emphasize is that fasting has worked for me. I really want other people to at least try it because I know it can work for them too. But back to my own journey. Around week 10, I started fasting again. So I was doing rolling 72s for a while, which means I would fast for 72 hours. Do 4 days of normal eating, and then eventually would do 72 hours followed by 1 day of eating, and then immediately back into another 72-hour fast. Now at this point in time, I'm so lean that I could no longer do that if I wanted to. So that is a good problem for me to have. But when it does come to fasting, you do need to eventually know your limits and know when it's time to slow things down. So in the past 2 weeks or so, I've been more focused on trying to do rolling 48-hour fasts, which means I fast, I go an entire day without eating, and then I make it to whenever my breaking meal is, it's a 1 meal setup. So I eat all the day's calories, try to cram it into about a half hour worth of eating, and then I'm done. That would be a rolling 48, which I think is really good, especially for people that are leaner, to be able to still fast and lose body fat. The stage I'm at right now, I really can't lose that much more. So I'm doing 1 meal a day, and that's been working very well for me. I'm very excited to show the results on stage. I think it's going to be really telling. And believe me, I'm not saying that everything I do is sustainable or is for everybody, but you could tailor it in a way that makes it so that it is. I'm doing this to get stage lean for a bodybuilding show, but anybody could do a more realistic and holistic approach to get to 15 to 10% body fat easily. But I'm out here trying to get to like 5 or 6, so things are a little bit different, and I'll cover that in the macro breakdown once we get inside. So let's talk about peak week. Peak week is called peak week for a very specific reason. So when we talk about peaking, we're talking about a way that the body looks. There's really 3 major ways that your body can look on stage. I'm gonna hit all 3 of them, and I'm gonna explain why peaking is the one you want. So the 3 body compositions are going to be flat, peaked, and full. Now, flat can be called a few different things. Sometimes it's flat, sometimes people say peeled, shredded, dry. These are all synonyms with each other. That basically means that you are very dry in the skin and that your muscles are actually depleted of glycogen. So you end up looking really shredded, but at the same time, you also look very two-dimensional. So being flat can be a good thing in certain cases, but when you're standing on stage next to somebody who is full, you're going to look way smaller than them. Even if you have the same muscle density, because you're flat, your arms aren't going to be as pronounced. They'll be cut. You'll be able to see the insertions. That part's no issue, but you're not going to look very big on stage, and that can be really detrimental if you're trying to go for a pro card. The next one is going to be full. So synonyms with this could be full, large. It kind of leads to something that people call being spilled over. This is basically a look where your muscles are fully filled with glycogen, but you also run the risk of what's called spilling over. So imagine your muscle is a water balloon. So if you have a water balloon, it starts out deflated, kind of like our flat muscle I just mentioned. You take water and you start adding it to the water balloon, it starts to expand. It expands and expands. But if you get to a point where the water balloon pops, now that water is spilling everywhere, hence the word spillover. What this means is that when your muscle is taking on so much water that it can't take on any more, it's going to start leaking into your extracellular tissues. So you're going to start leaking water into your subcutaneous tissue right here underneath the skin, but outside of the muscle. I think it's also called extracellular, but I'll have to check on that. Right now I'm just sort of going for it, so I'll double up on my vocabulary after the video. But basically, you got the water balloon, explodes. This can be a very big problem on stage because yes, you're going to look full and you're going to look very muscular, but you're also going to look very soft and you're not going to have very defined muscle insertions. This is really bad when you're being judged on stage. The judges are looking for striations, insertions, things of that nature. And if you're spilled over, you can't see those. A good way to tell if you are spilled over, and this is very easy, is after a carb load, if you lose your vascularity, so you no longer see veins, that's a sure sign that you've spilled over. Now, what's the third look? It's going to be peaked. Peaked is the middle ground between flat and full, where you're getting the best of both worlds in neither of the bad symptoms of both sides. So when you're flat, you're very shredded and very defined, but you're not large. When you're full, you're large, but you're not very defined. But if you're peaked, you're both. You see, you fill that water balloon with just enough glycogen, and I'll explain what that is in a second. You fill it with just enough glycogen that it doesn't spill over, but you still maintain that dry appearance where your skin is real nice and tight. And especially when the muscle is full of glycogen, it's going to push against your skin, making you have an even tighter and crisper appearance. Just had a bunch of birds fly over my house. Anyways, so how do we achieve this look? Well, let me explain how glycogen works. Glycogen has three major components. That's going to be water, sodium, and carbohydrates. When you fill the muscle with carbohydrates, it's going to expand. So that is glycogen. The formula for this is roughly 4 grams of water for every 1 gram of carbs. So 1 unit of glycogen, you're looking at about 5 grams total. So on stage, what I want to do is have my muscles be maybe 10% shy of like full capacity. And for me, that's going to be roughly somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 grams of carbs. So the average human can store probably somewhere in the range of 600 grams of glycogen in the body at any given time. But I'm a bodybuilder, so things are going to be different for me. I have more muscle mass than the average person, so that number is probably closer to 700 or 800. Now, on top of this, when you have a muscle that is fully flat and depleted, you can achieve something called supercompensation, which means that you can actually add more glycogen than what your muscle can normally store. So imagine if you're into things like Dragon Ball Z or video games where you power up a character, this is like using your ultimate ability to get a very short burst of unnaturally full muscles. So it doesn't last long. That's part of why it's called a peak week, because you can only maintain this look for a few hours at best, and there's a lot of delicacy that goes into it. So just knowing the formula isn't enough. You need to also practice it, because if you have the human element of things like overeating the carbs after you start or not timing out your pump up properly, all of it's for nothing. But anyways, that's how glycogen works. You got salt, water, and carbs. You need all three ingredients. So a big rookie mistake a lot of bodybuilders make is that they cut water and salt before they carb load, and then they eat all these carbs while they're extremely dehydrated, and your body's going to take those carbs and shuttle them into the organs because it wants to stay alive, as opposed to filling up the muscle. So I'm going to be doing this week, and I've already started it, by the way. I'm going to be fully ketogenic. I want to completely deplete my body of all glycogen so that I can basically do a hard reset on my body. So I am going to do a ketogenic state, and I am going to be drinking absurd amounts of water. I typically drink about 4 to 5 liters per day. For this week, I'm going to try to keep it closer to 8. I'm not exactly measuring the water, but what I am doing is drinking enough water that I know without doubt that I'm taking in excessive amounts of water. What this is going to do is completely flush my skin so that when I do my carb up, I'm completely dry. At that point, I'm going to basically have as many carbs on, and this will be on Thursday. I'm going to have basically as many carbs as I can while maintaining a relatively stable amount of water throughout the whole day, so that I am basically going to try, because I think about this, 1,000 grams of carbs. It's not going to be exactly that, but that's kind of the ballpark. For me to have the glycogen I need, I'll need about 4 liters of water while I'm carbing up. So that is going to give me a very full appearance. And if you think about what I said earlier about 1 unit of glycogen being about 5 grams, if I take on 1,000 grams of carbs plus the 4 kilos of water, so 4 liters, 4 kilos, same thing, that's going to end up being almost 10 pounds of fluid that's going directly to my muscles, nowhere else in the body, just boom, muscles blowing up like those water balloons. This is going to do a few really awesome things. For one, it's going to have the muscles pushing up against the skin. So right now, I do have a little bit of loose skin. My physique is very cut, but it's not very hard looking. That's going to completely change when I carb load. So I'll give you some examples. Right now, I do still have just the smallest amount of love handles right here. What I'm thinking will happen when I do my carb load is that my body is going to expand, and that fat is going to be more dispersed around the midsection, so it's not going to be as noticeable. Plus, throughout this week, since I am in a ketogenic state, I am trying to burn off those last few pounds, hoping I get there. It is very tough. The love handles are the last thing to go. But that's basically how that works. So all week I'm doing water, 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 going for about 8 liters a day. Thursday, carbs. Friday, what am I going to be doing Friday? So Friday is going to be a day where I want to get my stomach as cleaned out as possible. So I'm actually going to be significantly reducing food on Friday so that my GI tract is basically empty, as close to that as I can. What that means is that I'm going, to the best of my ability, not have too many carbs on Friday. I might have a couple rice cakes just so that, I'm topped off on glycogen, but it's not going to be anything crazy. And I'm going to be avoiding protein and fiber at all costs. When you're backstage or when you're doing a bodybuilding show, you do not need to be worried about putting on new muscle. The cut is over, the diet is over. What's more important is that your gut is empty. So no protein at all. I'll get some protein from the carbs I eat, but I'm not tracking it. I don't have any goal for protein on Friday. What I will do is I will have literally tablespoons of butter just to keep my body going and to also curb the appetite Friday. The reason for this is butter is basically that big, and once it melts, it's going to disappear into my GI tract. It's not going to push my stomach out at all. But since it's very calorically dense, oh, by the way, I wear Invisalign. Oh, that's embarrassing. Let's put that over there for now. So because fat is so calorically dense, it's not going to push out my GI tract. It is going to help me feeling full. And I do want to be in a somewhat metabolic state going into the show, so I don't want to feel like I'm drained and depleted. So just having butter and a little bit of rice cakes, things like that, is going to help me stay in an anabolic state while I'm just hanging out at the hotel, getting the spray tan, going through the posing, and doing all that fun stuff. While I'm doing this, I don't want to be cutting water entirely. I do want to drop it down a little bit, probably back closer to my regular maintenance of water. So I'm not going to be eating as much food, so I'm not going to be needing to process as much water. 2 or 3 liters, somewhere in that range. Basically what I just want to do is make sure I'm still peeing clear fluid. If I start peeing a lot of yellow sediment, that means I'm becoming dehydrated. I'll need to increase the water. But I don't want to increase it too much because I don't want to spill over. So it is a delicate process. I'm just going to drink water as needed on Friday and not take it too serious. The day of the show, I expect to be on stage somewhere between 12 and 12:30. So I might have half of a liter in the morning and that's it. The day of the show, it's important not to overhydrate, but you don't want to be bone dry either because you need to be able to get a pump. So if you're not able to get a pump, everything was for nothing. I want to at least have enough salt water, especially the salt is important on show day. I want to have enough going through my veins so that I'm nice and vascular. When I hit the stage, I get a really good pump, and I'll be able to maintain that look for about 15 to 20 minutes. After that, it does start to fade no matter what you do. So the pump up is equally important. You want to wait as long as you can before pumping up. So basically when you're lined up backstage, that's when you want to start hammering out push-ups, bicep curls, tricep extensions, etc. But you don't want to be backstage doing that all day. So that's the pump up, the carb load, and the water. Sodium and water are going to go together. I'm not going to cut sodium, I'm not going to cut water, and I'm not going to mess with the ratios too much. I'm just going to reduce, but I'm not cutting sodium altogether because I want to maintain my electrolytes. Plus, when you have a good electrolyte balance, You're going to be more fun on stage. It is a presentation. There is a lot of theatrics involved in bodybuilding. I'm on stage. If I want to wink at the judge or wave or whatever, that goes a long way in your favor when you're on stage. You want to be likable. You get some of these guys that go out there and they're dead in the face. They look like zombies. And sure, they have great bodies, but there's no stage presence. You got to have stage presence. I've got my electrolytes. If I'm hydrated, this guy next to me that might have a slightly better body, I might be able to show mine off better simply because I feel good and feel confident. So that's kind of how that works. So I do want to eventually go over a more comprehensive deep dive into peak week and all of the bodybuilding tips and tricks in general. But since I'm kind of winging this right now, I think it's best if I save that for a future video. But I do just want to cap off this recap saying I'm feeling really good and really energized, and I'm excited to hit the stage next Saturday. From here, oh, the birds are back. From here, I'm going to take you guys inside. I'm going to show you my final weigh-in before peak week, and I'll eventually do a video or show you my stage weight, but that'll probably come down the road. I'll do my final weigh-in. I'll show you guys where I'm at. We'll do a physique update, and then I'll take you in there to break down what I've been doing macros-wise and what I'm going to be doing macros-wise this week. So let's go inside and check it out, all right? All right, guys, there we have it. So I just hit the final weigh-in, 173.2. The last time I competed, I was 175, and the time before that, I got down to 171. I'm 2 pounds away from the lightest I've ever been, and I think my physique is a lot stronger. So I think I could say right now I'm the leanest I've ever been in my life, and I haven't even done peak week yet. I'm pumped. All right, so I want to show you guys the physique update, and then I'll take you in the office. We'll do a macro breakdown. Let's do it. All right, guys, here we are in the office for the last macro breakdown. I'm pretty pumped, man, because this has been a long time coming. I'm going to jump right in. We're looking at my steps right now. Steps this week have fallen off, and there's a reason for that. I need to burn fat faster than walking. So I've substituted walking for elliptical. I've been trying to do 2 hours of elliptical minimum per day. I'll do as much elliptical as I have to get to my goal. So that's basically it. The elliptical does not have to be, breaking down the doors. I'm not trying to set records here. If I can just get like 2 hours in, the Mets, if they're at 5 or 6, I'm cool with that. I'm not out here trying to win a race. I'm just trying to burn body fat. So keeping the Mets in that 5-6 range. When I hit my electrolyte water, I'm able to get it up to around 8 for 10-15 minutes at a time, but I'm not able to sustain it quite yet. Still working on my electrolyte formula, but the good news is that does help a lot. And once the show's over, I'm able to start having like real calories again. The cardio is going to be mind-boggling. I've got hockey coming up soon, so that'll be a good chance for me to get more into athletic workouts and things of that nature. that's the steps. Here's the weight. Very excited for this one. All right, well, I'll scroll this up just a little bit so you can see last week's. Week 2 was in the high 170s, mid 170s. This week actually maintained that mid range, but look at this. Starting Friday, the weight really started flying off. So, started the week at 179. This morning, I'm 173. The leanest I'd ever been is 171, and that was over a year ago. I think I'm stronger now. I think I've put a little bit of more, put a little more muscle on now, and the 171 was right before a carb load. So I've still got 4 days before my carb load. Can I at least get to 171 again? I think so. I'd like to get to 169 though. That's going to be very tough, but we're going to push for it. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But either way, these are good weigh-ins. I'm probably sitting somewhere around 7% body fat. So if I shred down even 2 more pounds, it's going to put me around 6. So that's good. That's where we want to be. I'd like to be at 5%. I don't think I'm going to hit it, to be honest. But I know that I could. And I've got my eye on some shows that are coming up after this one. I'm already in shape and they're local. It wouldn't be that much of a stretch for me to combo up some shows after this one. And with a few extra weeks of prep time, I could easily get to 5% from where I'm at right now. Let's talk about the macros. This is where things get interesting. So here's week 1. I just want to do a quick recap on week 2. Week 2, I went out of town for Labor Day weekend. Had a little bit of a food bender. As you can see, Friday and Saturday, the calories were just mind-boggling. Like, really, really high calories. Came back home. I did an entire 72-hour fast. I actually got up to, I think, 92 or 93 hours. I took a screenshot of it. I'll put it up when I edit this. But I fasted for a really long time. I was able to pull it off simply because I did such a massive like food bender over the weekend that I had a lot of glycogen built up. So the fasting was good. Wednesday, I did start to really hit a brick wall, so I knew it was time. Broke that fast with let's get Wednesday highlighted here. It was basically just proteins and fats. You can see 90 grams of fat, 180 grams of protein. I think I had whole eggs and sardines. So I did whole eggs and sardines basically from Wednesday all the way to Saturday. So you can see calories are pretty consistent. The fats are pretty high. So I'm still definitely in keto mode. 120 grams of fat Thursday, 120 grams of protein Thursday. Friday, I had a lot of protein shakes, and the reason was because I was doing a ton of cardio, and I just felt very lethargic and weak. So I had 4 scoop protein shake before bed. That's how the protein got all the way up to 300. But I woke up Saturday feeling good, so I kind of did that again. Everything was the same, tons of eggs, sardines. Before bed last night, I didn't have 4 scoops, I had 3 scoops. So that's kind of where this missing 30 grams of protein comes in. So, all in all, this is not a diet that I would expect people to maintain or want to do or anything like that. I'm doing this to get really shredded. That's kind of it. So where do I go from here? Well, I am only eating bacon. I've already had some today. I'm only eating bacon until Wednesday. So I'm trying to keep it to a pound of bacon. If I need more, I'll up it to, a pound and a half of bacon, maybe even 2. But I don't think I'll need to because of the way keto works. as long as my appetite's down and I'm still able to perform in the gym on cardio, I'm not really messing with weights at this point. If I can still maintain 2 hours today, tomorrow, and Tuesday on the elliptical, Wednesday I'm going to take my foot off the gas a little bit, basically start my recovery mode. Now, starting Thursday, I'm not working out again. So no matter what happens, the diet ends Thursday. So I will carb load. I'm going to stay out of the gym and I'm only going to work on posing. So Thursday, Friday, pose, 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 pose. Saturday, compete. Not trying to stimulate my muscles at all once the carbs come in. I'll do light posing. I'm not squeezing hard, not going ham. I want to make sure that I am fully rested and recovered when I hit stage I want to be at my best. So I've got 4 days to cut as much body fat as I can from where I am right now. I think I can lose 2 more pounds of body fat in 4 days. It's going to be aggressive. I think I can do it. Pull that off, I should be sitting squarely somewhere around 6% body fat. It would be nice to be 5, but I just don't think that's going to happen. And that's okay. I mean, on stage, extra 2 pounds of body fat is only going to be noticeable to me and like the judges. As far as like sharing content with you guys aren't going to be able to tell the difference. So it's really not that big a deal, even though it is to me, just because it's a milestone, right? I want to hit 5%. So once you get dug into something mentally, you have to do it. So if I don't hit it, gosh, there's follow-up shows that I can do in October. Definitely hit it then. So anyways, I'm going to leave this here, guys. It's kind of a longer video. I'm probably not going to edit as much as I normally do. I just need to get this out there and get back out and doing cardio. So can't wait to show you guys how things end up next week when I do my final video. I think the show will probably already have been over at that point, so that'll be fun. Talk about how it went, what I did right, what I did wrong. Try to be as objective as possible. I'm going in there as confident as I can be, but I don't want to be cocky either. So anyways, leaving it here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, do all that fun stuff. All right, I'm taking off. Peace.